pressure for me as a kid growing up was not really from others outside, but just for me on the expectations of what I wanted because I wanted to achieve. The only pressures I would have is maybe people expecting me to go in a different direction and me being bullheaded and saying, "This is what I want. I'm gonna do it because I have confidence in myself and I'm willing to put in the work that I wanted to do."
Good day, and welcome to another edition produced by the Caribbean Sports Entertainment Management Group and representing to you today On Drive. On Drive is a special program which is co-hosted by Carl Blankendel and Vernon A. Springer. It brings to you consistency, information, stability, respect, and most of all, a passion to highlight the untold stories of women and men around the world. Our motto is never expect, never assume, never ask, and never demand. Just let it be. Today, our special guest is from Rainbow City. Yes, Rainbow City in the Anguilla. And when you're talking about Anguilla, you have to talk about Omari Banks. You have to talk about Banky Banks. You have to talk about the latest test player from Anguilla, Jamal Hamilton. You also have to talk way back about Eustace Proctor. You have to talk about Lanville Harrigan. You have to talk about Cardigan Connor. And the list is long, long. You also have to talk about Terry Adams and Alex Adams and the cycling fraternity out of Anguilla. And most of all, sailing, because sailing is a big, big, big sport in Anguilla. The only thing is that Omari Banks didn't choose sailing. He decided not to play football, even though he could have played football. So he played cricket, and he combined both cricket and music. So every time you saw Omari with a guitar. So if you heard anything about Anguilla, the first name that pops up is Omari's father, Banky Banks. And so you will understand how serious it is. His uncle, Val Banks, was the president of the Leeward Islands Cricket Association for many years and went on to be the vice president of the West Indies Cricket Board. So you will see the long fraternity. And then we're talking about Victor Banks, who was the premier of Anguilla. So you're talking about some real history. But in any spectrum of Anguilla, there's one name that stands out because of sports, and it is Omari Banks. Carl Blankendel and Vernon A. Springer, we welcome Omari Banks on Drive. Good day, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, Springer. Thank you for that long introduction. I think that's one of the most well-detailed introductions I've had in quite a while, but I expected no different from you, coming from somebody who has known me for such a long time, knowing my history, knowing the history, of course, of Anguillan cricket, and just not even just cricket, but just the cultural position of the island. I expected nothing else, but I'm really happy to be here. As well as actually one thing I missed is that even the close ties between St. Kitts and Anguilla. Actually, my grandmother was initially was from St. Kitts, so I've got a lot of strong ties from in St. Kitts as well. So from as a child, from under 15s, and even before that, every time I would go to St. Kitts, I would definitely have a place to stay, have people looking after me, and the courtesy and everything. Just a good the good vibes was always there when I got there. Actually, was always a happy hunting ground for me when it came to cricket as well. So there's a very strong connection, and Springer, of course, you made um, that process and made the whole experience that much better as well through the years.
Omari Banks. How did Omari Banks get involved in cricket? I know I talked about your dad, I know I talked about your uncle, but there would have had to be a love for the sport. Who would have ignited you at an early primary school age to get involved in cricket in Anguilla?
Well, I'll tell you what, the story is a funny kind of story. So growing up as a child, I had a passion for all sports. I mean, I played from my earliest memories. I mean, I was used to do track and field and run in primary school and was good at that. Then I played football for my primary school team. I actually was a captain, and when we won the first actual primary school competition in Anguilla. And actually, I used to play a lot of baseball even before cricket. I'll tell you the whole story now. I used to play baseball because my brothers and my mother went to university in the US, and I had a couple aunts in New York. And I think like in the 84, 85, 86, the New York Mets were like a big team. And my family growing up, a lot of time, my aunts and them growing up in New York, I had a love for baseball. So my brothers, my cousins, we would all play baseball, play football, play athletics, play all kind of sports in the yard, and I was part of that. So it was very competitive and was very good at kind of sports from an early age. But like I think my uncle Val was of course a cricketer in Anguilla, and not only just a cricketer in Anguilla, but at that time he was actually before I was born and even coming up, he was a past captain of Anguilla national team, and he was around sports, even a manager of the Leeward Islands team. When my parents, my dad was sometimes spent quite a bit of time on tour. My mother was going to school and university. I spent quite a bit of time with him, so I remember seeing him going to practice always around cricket. Even some of the Leeward Islands teams, Rich Richards and Viv Richards and all those guys, I remember them coming to the house, to his house. But even before that, I mean, at that time, sorry, I actually was not playing cricket at that time. You know what I'm saying? I was playing baseball, playing a lot of sports. And then maybe at the age of maybe like 7 years old, 7, 8 years old, I met one of my school friends, a guy by the name of Linval Richards. He knew that I was good at a lot of sports, and there was like cricket tryouts that was coming up. And then he was like, "Yo, you should come cricket practice." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Remember going to cricket practice. I was about 7, 8 years old, and from the first day I went to cricket practice, actually I started. I bowled a ball, and he was, and like the coach of the team was like, "Wow, you've got some talent," you know what I mean? And he actually remember at that time he started to talk about my uncle Val. You know, he gonna be like Val Banks and stuff like that. And then of course I developed a real love for the game because if you go to practice from the first day, you're good at something. Of course that's gonna inspire you. And then when I went home to tell my uncle Val about it, he was kind of ecstatic. 'Cause, I mean, he had sons that didn't play cricket and stuff like that, and I was spending a lot of time with him as well, living with him because my mom spent a lot of time and my dad was away. So we kind of even developed even more of a bond from a very early age because I kind of wanted to kind of follow in that footstep. You know what I mean? Make him proud, make myself proud, and here I was doing something that was, you know what I mean? I was really passionate about and that I was good at that age, even from the first time. And he kind of really kind of just kind of helped push me along. What I needed, if I needed a cricket ball, cricket bat, I mean, my first pad, my first bats. Yeah, he would support me in that. And of course, what happened was I think after the first year, my coach Cardigan Connor actually he would come to the primary schools. This was now after I probably had played about 6 or 7 months of cricket. Cardigan Connor came into the primary schools, and he would from England, and what he would do is just go to all the primary schools and select the best players to check out the best players from each class, like from class 4 to class 6, the best players. And the first year I didn't get selected. I think this was like when I was in grade 3 because I wasn't playing cricket. But the second year, of course, I went out with the best cricket players. And then, I mean, he saw me bowl and he was like, "Hey, one of these days, if you continue bowling like that, you could play for West Indies." I remember him telling me that. And right about there, kind of like something got in my mind. I was like, okay, that almost became like a obsession for me, like in the sense that in my mind the seed was planted that I wanted to play international cricket for the West Indies, and that's all I wanted to do. So in a lot of ways, from the age of 7, 8 years old, I definitely knew what I wanted to do. And from that time onward, I really worked extremely hard. My mom would say that I was obsessed, and I would definitely say that as well. Worked hard, practiced every day, walked with my big bag. I mean, I sacrificed a lot, even in terms of education, in the sense of that I was always in the top grades in school. But for me, I mean, nothing was more important than cricket, whether it be going to the park, practicing every day, sometimes practicing by myself. I mean, I could go on, but I'll let you answer the question, Springer. But basically, my introduction into cricket, that's how it was in a nutshell.
Carl, Omari is one of the guys who would have graduated and come through our ranks. from the St. Stephen's 13 and under into the first ever Leeward Islands under 15 team. Went on to captain the Leeward Islands under 19, represented the West Indies under 19. So this is a journey that has started a way back long time. But just to pique your little interest, Cal, I just want Omari to talk about his backyard days, having his sister bowl to him and bowl to him for many hours that she couldn't get him out. So talk about that period of time. You're not gonna tease you on that.
Cool. So basically, I mean, I have an older brother who was 7 years older than I was. And I remember growing up, and that's a funny story. I tease him about that too. I had a brother that was older than I was, but I was always athletic as a child. So he was athletic too, but I think I was a little bit more athletic. So at the age of, I remember about 7, 8 years old, he was about 13, 14. I remember I beat him at a game of baseball. So for me, that was like one of the biggest victories I've had. I was next to chasing on the 418 Antigua. At 7 years old, you beat your older brother at a sport. So I remember, so when I still remember that day up to this day. So when of course, then I had a younger sister. When I got 7, my youngest sister was born, Tahira. And so Tahira was a tomboy. Everything that I did, she wanted to do. You know what I mean? So I brought up in playing cricket with me, playing water games, everything brought her up tough. So when I was about 14 years old, no, she was about 7, 8 years old, and she wanted to do everything that I was doing. And what was a good thing for me is that, hey, she liked to bowl, I like to bat. So all day we play cricket. So you get one out. The only thing is I'm 7 years older, so I could bat a little bit better. And she was learning to bowl. So I had a good little bowling machine that would bowl to me. Both me often, I taught her a lot, and she toughened up a lot, and so bowling, my sister bowling to me in the backyard at home was something where, even up to yourself, Spring, and a lot of people in Anguilla always talk about that, where I would bat for hours, maybe I'll bat for a long time. She'll get her chance to bat maybe for a couple of minutes, and then she'll bowl. But the older she got, that didn't carry on for too long, maybe about a year and a half, 2 years. After a while, that wasn't happening. She would get tired. She would say she want to drink some water. She's gonna do something different. Don't come
back. Folks, if you're wondering what's happening, we're speaking to Omari Banks, the first test player from Anguilla on our platform, OnDrive. And OnDrive, we want to be able to take some time out to be able to salute all of our sponsors who have made this possible, and to salute our entire team who've been able to come up with this production.
When your body is challenged, it burns fuel and energy. Respond to every challenge with Altitude Sports Drink. It replenishes, restores, and prepares you for the next level. Altitude is uniquely formulated with an electrolyte blend and magnesia available in fruit punch, blue frost, and grape. Altitude. Raise your game.
Dem Sports is an innovative sports equipment manufacturer specialising in the production of high-quality sports nets and cages for clubs, universities and schools. The development of the Dem Sports concertina cage, either as a single or double width sports net, has helped schools in inner city areas where space is a premium to include sports such as cricket and tennis in the curriculum in a safe and enjoyable way.
The nets were developed really for when we had schools with a problem with space, so it could be used in limited areas. It folds back to the wall to a minimum of 515 millimetres and pulls out to 8 metres just over.
This sort of equipment is exactly the solution that many head teachers will look to use. It is space saving, it is easy to operate, it is relatively low cost, and again the impact of having provision within the school grounds is a real plus point.
Dem Sports are the world leaders in sports nets for schools. They have a range of net sizes to suit all spaces and can custom build whatever you require. For more information on how we can help you transform your play space at school, Safely, quickly and affordably, contact Dem Sports for details.
Carl, I'll give you an opportunity to talk to Omari because I just gave you just the opening period, but there's so much we could talk about on this interview because Omari Banks and myself, we shared a long journey from under 15 to the senior level. So you will understand in terms of what's happening. Every development part of his cricket, I was either his coach or his manager. So ended up to be an administrator, you name it. So it's somebody that I would have come up with from as early as the St. Kitts Nevis 13 and under, even until when he played Test cricket. Because even in playing for Test cricket, he was the Leeward Islands captain, so you would understand the role that we would have played. So I give you a little opportunity so you can have a conversation with Omari in terms of the cricketing side, and we'll mix this conversation before we get into the musical side, because trust me, you ain't hear nothing yet.
All right, Omari, thank you very much. Good stories about your past, but I'm going to make it personal. What type of coach was Mr. Springer?
Springer was one of those people that was passionate about his players. Definitely passionate about his players. I think the first time I remember getting involved, meeting Springer would have either been, I think, probably the first under 19s in St. Kitts that I took part in Nevis. I don't know if you remember that one. That's before under 15, under 13, I think, Springer.
Yes.
But I came.
In fact, you were about 10 years old at that time.
Exactly. I was about 10, 11 years old at that time. I didn't play a match, but I was a young up-and-coming cricketer. And the older guys like Alex Adams, Marlon Martin, those guys were a little bit old. Well, Leon Lake were much older than me, and I was like the baby on the team. Me and Sazam sometimes used to sleep in the park on the same cot because we love cricket so much. Get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, bowl and bat with each other. So that's what it was the first time that I met Springer. And then the second time, the following year there was an under 19 competition was held in Anguilla. And there was talks about having the first under 15, under 13 competition. And then I remember at that time, some of the cricketers who Springer was working with in St. Kitts were guys like Ezra Powell, Dwayne Rollins, Shane Jeffers. These were the guys who I was going to come up against in the first under 15 competition for Anguilla against those guys. And Springer was always somebody who was always willing to share. He wasn't the kind of coach where say, okay, he's coaching St. Kitts, so he's not going to share that knowledge. He was always willing to share this information. So back for the cross, head straight, head over the ball, on drive. I mean, like always willing to give that information. And and we had different, what I would say now, sound bites of what he would say. And we had it for a joke when we were kids. But the older you get, the more you understand how important that was. I have affirmations that I give to my daughters. And so it's basically in a nutshell, what Springer was doing is just giving us affirmations of how we should subliminally speak to ourselves on the things that we're supposed to do. And so me and Springer go a long way back. I even remember after one of the under 19s in Nevis. I don't remember what year it was, but I don't think I was. I don't know if I was part of the camp or something. Probably I could have been part of the camp, but maybe an honorary part of the camp because I was young. But they had something in Nevis and where they selected a team across from, I think it's Lespon. What's it called? Lespon?
Siswan.
And they had me singing there for the guys just before they went out playing under 19 and stuff like that. But I mean, me and Springer go way back, man. And as a coach, he's somebody that has always been about sharing his knowledge, giving information, and paying a lot of attention to details. He's a lover of persons, a lover of the development of persons, and just a consistent soul. I mean, I can say that from the bottom of my heart right now and say that with no reservations because I know the character. And I've realized the older that you get, the more you realize that's the kind of people that you want on your team. You want people who will support you, who will go the distance for you, and who's passionate about what they do. And Springer is definitely a person for that, like that.
I understand where his passion comes from now and how this platform was started, because everything you said, I see them in today, and definitely recognize what you said and Mr. Springer, who I've met over the last 6 months or so. Moving ahead to Anguilla, was there a lot of pressure for you coming from your family background, as far as your father, your uncle in the world of cricket? Were there high expectations of you? Did you feel any pressure in the community or the country?
Well, not really. I'll tell you what. The only pressure I would have felt is pressure to like, because as Springer mentioned, I came from a very strong family in the sense of that, strong in the sense that the expectation is always high, especially academically. So for me, as a young kid growing up, when I wanted to spend all my time playing cricket on the park and not focus on my education, that was something that I would have to butt heads with loads of people, whether it be some of my peers, even teachers in school who would say compared to your older brothers who were straight A students, your other cousins, your mom who's an intellect, etc. So I had to go through the sense a period where everybody expected me to not go to the wanted me, I would say, to go the route of education as opposed to sports. And I think that's one of the drawbacks I would definitely say up in the Caribbean, in the sense that if you're living in America, and for the biggest part, education and sports kind of go hand in hand. In a lot of ways in the Caribbean, or at least definitely not right at the time when I was playing, it's almost like you had to sacrifice your time in sports to be able to make it in sports, sacrifice your time and your education to make it in sports, because the path was not necessarily there. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's no college that if you're gonna go college to play to do your education, basically you're putting your cricketing career aside. Because Springer would tell you, I mean, in cricket or in sports in general, you got to be hitting the different teams at different ages, and this is what I tell all the kids even growing up right now. At 15 years old, 16 years old, I was already part of the Leeward Islands training camp. At 14 years old, 15, I played for Leeward's under 19, 11, Anguilla under 19s. I mean, at every level of the way. At 17, I'd already played first class cricket for Leicestershire against Pakistan. I made my first class debut at 18, international at 20. So I'm saying, you don't when I look at kids who are 14 years old right now, like that's why I was playing for Anguilla at 14. And these are things where it's necessary. If you're not able to compete with professionals with big men at that age there, then you're probably not ready for international cricket at 18, 19, 20. And that's what you got to do, because in sports you have a time cap. If you're not hitting the age range, hitting the targets at a young age, the 18-year-olds got out of 17-year-olds got a greater upside than you do. And that's why for me, it was very easy even when it came to retiring, because I was saying, okay, this is what needs to happen. I'm the captain of the team. If I'm not playing with Leeward team, which I know I'm good enough right now, I'm ready to let that go and move on to something else. But I know I've jumped the gun a bit, but I say that just to say the pressure for me as a kid growing up was not really from others outside, but just for me on the expectations of what I wanted, because I wanted to achieve. The only pressures I would have is maybe people expecting me to go in a different direction, and me being bullheaded and saying, this is what I want, I'm gonna do it because I have confidence in myself and I'm willing to put in the work that I wanted to do. But I mean, my dad, my mom, and my dad didn't really tell me, okay, you got to do cricket, or you got to do music. I was the kind of character that kind of charted my own path. So yeah, for me, I just kind of block out and just did what I wanted to do, and the people who I knew would support me, whether it be my uncle Val, the mother would give me moral support, Kadagan Kana, and I mean Springer, everybody with around the cricket. I just held on to those forces and voices and just ran my race.
From Anguilla to Leeward Islands to the full test playing member of the West Indies, how was that transition, especially your first time you got the official notice that you were part of the team? What sense of pride did you feel, or anything?
Yeah, that was a really great sense of pride. I mean, because I mean, you can imagine there was a lot of just growing up as a kid. I mean, there's a lot of doubts, and put that into perspective that nobody from Angola had ever played for the West Indies before I did. One other person have done it now, Jamal Hamilton. I think he's played one match so far, and hope that he continues to grow from that. But you have to understand that nobody had represented the West Indies. So although it was definitely a major accomplishment for me, but even for the entire country, it was something where everybody on the island was so proud and so happy. So I mean, I got a really kind of sense of understanding from a very early age what success can do, in the sense of that the same people that will be telling you, hey, you can go this way, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Those are some of the same people who are going to be congratulating you and telling you that you know you can do it when you when you finally reach to that point of achieving or realizing that goal. So that's how I kind of look at life. Yes, I mean, it really gave me a really sense of pride to know that if you put your mind to something and you work hard at something and you pay attention to details, that you can accomplish what you want to do. I mean, just even the fact that to be able to represent West Indies team at the age of 20, and not only just do that, in my first year, I was nominated for World Young Cricketer of the Year by Wisden Magazine. Myself, Graham Smith, and James Anderson were the three nominees. I didn't win the award, but to be looked at as one of the best three cricketers and young cricketers in the world was something which I was really proud of. So, I mean, coming from Angola, that's something which I mean, you can only dream of. I mean, Angola, we don't have much great facilities, but what I did have was the opportunity to, from a very early age, to try to train in some good circles, the professionals over at Leicestershire, when they would come sometimes to do preseason training. Um, I just try to take my chances and try to learn from those who are around me and just put in the work. Many times I would be at practice by myself, dreaming, just hoping for somebody to just come to the park to bowl me, somebody I can bowl to. But I never stopped believing, and I always had a sense of time, sense of what I needed to do at this point in time to make sure that my career goes in the direction of where I wanted it to go of upward. And I think that's one of the most important things, having a very keen idea of time. Because if you in a sporting career, if you don't have an idea of time, you can look down the road and then 2, 3 years pass, and then you're wondering why they're not selecting you, they're selecting somebody. So you've got to have that presence of mind from a very early age.
I have one more before we get into your artistic talent. You know, you made the move from Anguilla, Leeward Islands, West Indies, one of the best three young players in the world. How is it to go back home and you were the young player that left, and all of a sudden you are like, you know, the celebrity, the superstar? You were that when you left, but when you're coming back now, how did you manage that pressure? You know, everyone's looking at you through a microscope. No matter what you do, you are
Right.
being.
Yeah, I mean that was different. I mean, because I was always a humble guy, and the truth of the matter is, I had to prepare myself for that. I would say, hey, when I play for West Indies, I always be the same person because I believed in myself. But the more you realize, and the older you get, now you realize it's almost like it's not necessarily the person that changed, but how people view you is what changed. And sometimes, no matter what you do, you can affect how people would think about you, whether it is sometimes their insecurities and that kind of stuff. I remember when the first time I came back, there was a carnival, and I was out with my mom, and we were watching like the parade or something, and there was this guy that I knew, and I didn't even know him really well. We were just walking along, and he was like, he hailed me, and I didn't see him, and he said something like, "Oh, you don't want to hail me now because you're playing for West Indies." And I remember that I was 20 years old, and I remember crying. I remember crying at that time with my mother because it just hurt me so much, like because you were thinking like, why would he say something like that? Because one of the things where you one of the things that you told yourself that you would never do, he was accusing you of that, and it was something that was really innocent. So, but I mean, over a period of time, I think one of the things where people who are successful have got to come to grips with is that, yeah, there's something you have to just maintain one, who you are, and maintain the edge that got you to where you got yourself, and be true to yourself. Because at the end of the day, we cannot stop people from judging us, but what we can do is be true to our conscience. And once you're true to your conscience and once you live in that kind of love, in that light, even no matter what happens, they hate the naysayers, the haters, or whatever. And sometimes they're just innocent people who just have got their issues dealing with and just will view you differently because you have risen above where they saw you. So I mean, it's just about just being true to yourself and loving people and being sincere about who you are and what you want to do. So yeah.
Okay, to our listening audience and viewers, we're here on the Caribbean Sport Entertainment Management platform with my co-host, Mr. Vernon Springer, and our special guest, Mr. Omari Banks from Anguilla. And this is the On Drive Show.
When your body is challenged, it burns fuel and energy. Respond to every challenge with Altitude Sports Drink. It replenishes, restores, and prepares you for the next level. Altitude is uniquely formulated with an electrolyte blend and magnesium available in fruit punch, blue frost, and grape. Altitude. Raise your game.
Dem Sports is an innovative sports equipment manufacturer specialising in the production of high-quality sports nets and cages for clubs, universities and schools. The development of the Dem Sports concertina cage, either as a single or double-width sports net, has helped schools in inner-city areas where space is a premium to include sports such as cricket and tennis in the curriculum in a safe and enjoyable way.
The nets were developed really for when we had schools with a problem space, so it could be used in limited areas. It folds back to the wall to a minimum of 515 millimetres and pulls out to 8 metres just over.
This sort of equipment is exactly the solution that many head teachers will look to use. It is space saving, it is easy to operate, it is relatively low cost, and again the impact of having provision within the school grounds is a real plus point.
Dem Sports are the world leaders in sports nets for schools. They have a range of net sizes to suit all spaces and can custom build whatever you require. For more information on how we can help you transform your play space at school safely, quickly and affordably, contact Dem Sports for details.
Vernon, amazing story. You did tell me that this was a fantastic gentleman. He was going to blow my mind away. So I'll let you take it into his artistic talent, a man of many talents, Mr. Omari Banks.
Quick question.
Success is not a destination, it is a journey. And this journey has been a massive journey for Omari Banks. But just before he raises a question, I wanted to go back, Carl, to the planned pathway for Omari Banks. And when I say the planned pathway is to talk a little bit about Leicestershire tour in the Caribbean. Anguilla, as you know, is a British territory. So that provided opportunities for Somerset and Leicestershire County Cricket Club to come to Anguilla. Cardigan Connor really was instrumental in those days. But the relationship that I developed in Anguilla, I lived in Anguilla for about 8 months, and it was because of Omari Banks' uncle, Val Banks. And I really have to give credit to the community in Anguilla who helped me at that point in time. Joe Gums, Gwendolyn, his sister, Wayne Proctor, Terry Adams. Terry had been very, very close for a long time. And the Banks family took care of me while I was there, along with Cardigan Connor. So I learned really, I developed my style. I didn't just want it to stay in St. Kitts only and develop my own personal skills as a coach. I saw talent in Angola, and at the point in time, Val spoke to me and said, boy, we needed a coach for a period of time. And I know that that was coordinated by the point in time of the director of the OECS Sports Desk, Joseph Reds Pereira, because from Anguilla, I even journeyed on to the British Virgin Islands. So I had a little stint almost everywhere, and there were a number of folks. The passion sometimes everybody didn't have the same sort of passion like me. The time that I spent at the park, I always keep saying, and I said to Omari and those guys, that if I had like 3-4 more persons like me who was really dedicated to putting the work with the players, because that is what the players really needed, a sort of belief. I mean, you hear him talking about Sinclair Sazam Challenger, who's from Nevis, is one of the brightest cricketing minds that I've ever come across at age 11, 12, with Omari Banks. He knew everything. He knew all the stats. And he's somebody that is going to be on drive. I mean, I'm speaking to him right now. He lives in Anguilla. But I just giving you a little background, Cal, in terms of how deep these guys were concerned in the game as compared to maybe even the youngsters who are playing now. I know when we went youth tournaments, under 15, in fact, under 19, every under 19 tournament, the Barbados players would come out and they could tell you the entire history of Barbados cricket. Yes. I didn't have to worry about Omari Banks and Sinclair Challenger and those guys sitting down and taking them on in terms of the history of Leeward Islands cricket and Windward Islands cricket and what they knew and how they could match them up against. But every tour, you would always look for that discussion because the Barbadian players, whether it was under 15, under 19, under 17, trust me, they were taught the history of Barbados cricket. They knew it. They knew who were the Seymour Nurse, who were the Everton Weeks, the Wes Hall. We weren't good at that. But that was something I tried to see if I could teach Omari and those guys. And then, so the discussions were outside of playing on the field, off the field, along with the late Hayden Walsh and Sci-Fi Phillip and those guys. That is what the discussion was about. So I want Omari to spend time on the planned pathway from Anguilla to Leicestershire, because if you listen, Carl, there's a pathway that is not being established now for our young cricketers. He had the background. Our young cricketers, both male and female, you get a contract today for the Leeward Islands Hurricanes. You're the breadwinner for your family. And so it's a precious situation on you to perform.
Yes.
That's huge. So you have to put down your education and you got to concentrate just on cricket because you're the breadwinner for your family. So you can't go and say, hey, I think I want to go do some studies, because nobody's entertaining that. Hey, you get a contract, you know, that you got to look after us. It's a pressure situation. Omari didn't have that. Yes. And I'm not saying that what concerning his family. What I'm talking about is that we needed to take that model from what happened in Anguilla, where Omari at an early age went to England to learn his craft.
Definitely. I could say so much on that, but should I plug my phone in before I respond to that? Because I think I have a lot to say.
Yes. You're listening to On Drive, and our special guest today is Omari Banks from Anguilla. He's the first player from Anguilla to play Test cricket, played some 10 Test matches, 318 runs with 28 wickets. He also played for Leicestershire County Cricket Club and Somerset County Cricket Club, also the West Indies under-19, captain the Leeward Islands under-19, vice captain for the under-15, also captain the Leeward Islands senior team, captain Anguilla in the Leeward Islands competition, and was just a great young man. In fact, in May 2003 against Australia, most of us would remember Omari Banks for his record chasing 418 at the ARG, Antigua Recreation Ground in St. John's, Antigua and Barbuda against Australia, 418. And Omari Banks shared in what we'll call a record partnership at that point in time with Vasbert Drakes from the West Indies, who went on to play, to coach the West Indies senior team. Vazzy, as I call him now, we see Dominic Drakes, Carl, that's his son. But, you know, you will understand the contribution in terms of Omari Banks and his love not only for cricket, but his love for people. Because during the point in time when Omari was playing cricket and walking with his guitar, he was just an inspiration to many. Even when he played county cricket, even when he played for the Leeward Islands, he always had that guitar. And one of my special performances that I think I could remember Omari, it was about 2 years ago, maybe 4 years ago in Anguilla at the WIPA Awards, West Indies Players Association and Cricket West Indies Awards. Omari turned in a special presentation in Jamaica. where you had the Prime Minister of Jamaica, and so many other guests. It was just outstanding. Left everybody speechless. Got a standing ovation. But Omari is just a talented individual. He really one of the nicest young cricketers that I would have met. He talked about Dwayne from St. Kitts, Shane and Metwin Isaac and all those guys who've gone on to become doctors, Garrett Matthew, Alinoja Maynard. I mean, all these guys are still friends with Omari. Omari, just recap a little bit and talk about the pathway planned from Anguilla to Leicestershire and then even further on to Somerset.
So what I wanted to mention about is that a lot of people would believe because of my family background that I didn't have maybe challenges, and that's such a very big misconception in the sense of that. I mean, not that everybody would say that, but those who know me may know even a bit more. But in a lot of ways, I grew up after my dad and mom had kind of broke up. I grew up in a kind of a single parent home where my mom, with my mom, and my mom, of course, she was working with the government and sometimes traveling, and it was her by herself. And in a lot of ways, I had to grow up very early. So from the age, and just to tie that in, from the age of 15, 16 years old, I had to contribute heavily to just to keep a roof over our head in that sense, if you get what I'm saying, contributing to that. So you can imagine the stresses that my mom was under, and even the things which I had to make sure that I make the teams. So I remember my first time when I started even to play for Lee was the money wasn't big. So you're playing, I was now 17, 18 years old, rooming with Dave Joseph in the team with 10 other test players. You know what I mean? And I want to talk a little bit about that's even kind of how my career kind of panned out. And sometimes I wonder about that, because I was always known, even coming up after a while, as a batsman who could bowl. But when I made the Leeward Islands team at 18 years old, you got Keith Atherton, Dave Joseph, Stuart Williams. I mean, the likes of it. 11 test players won the team. And my first professional match, because I could bowl off spin too, I went in the camp, I got 4 wickets, made 70 odd, had a good camp, and they said, and I had already played for West Indies at 90. They said, Omari must be in the team as a young up-and-coming player. But when I played for Leewards, although I was a number 4 or 5 batsman who could do that on the team, they said, hey, he could bowl off spin, put him to bat number 8 because he should be in the team. He's in form, he's bowling good. And that's how I started to be a more bowling all-rounder. The first match, I got about 5 wickets in the match, but 3 in first innings, 2 second innings. I made 28 not out, 16 not out. And then the second match in St. Kitts, I got a man of the match. I got 10 wickets in the match. So I'm going to talk about that. I wanted to say that as a kind of a segue to let you know, for me, it was at that time, it was do whatever that you can to make sure that you're part of the team and that your career continues to thrive. Before that, talking about the pathway, a bit of it is that, as I said before, Leicestershire came to Anguilla back into, I think it was 1997, 98, and I was about 14, 15 years old. And we played about a couple matches against them because they were doing the preseason training. And they saw me bat, and the coach from the team said, hey, we want to invite Omari over to Leicestershire, because at that time, I mean, I had a British pass. I didn't have a British passport, but I Anguilla passport, but there was a procedure that if you play well, and there was a pathway that you can sign a co-pack deal with Leicestershire. So when I went over to Leicestershire the first time, a gentleman by the name of Jack Birkinshaw, who's still a mentor of mine to this day, and somebody who I love so much and who has always shown me love, he invited me over and took me in as a son. I stayed over there, stayed with different families, played club cricket on the weekend, trained with a professional team the week, played with the first team, the second team, trained with the first team, played with the second team. And then, of course, I played my first professional match ever before Leewards at 17 years old against Pakistan. Waka Yunus, Mushtaq Ahmed, Yusuf Yohana. I mean, playing with the likes of them. I mean, so I was given opportunities to go over to England and train with those guys. I also trained at Edgbaston with Warwickshire as well. The following, but 2 years later, the two seasons I did at Leicestershire. But then when I started to play professional cricket, I went over to Warwickshire to train with them as well. But the pathway is not really there right now, in the sense that you still can go over if you're from Anguilla, but I think there's such a lack there's a lack in a pathway even here in the region. In Anguilla, like back in the day when I grew up, there was the Leeward Islands competition. So St. Kitts would play against Anguilla, Anguilla play against Nevis, Antigua, and that was very intense cricket. To play for Anguilla was a big thing. You know what I mean? To play for Anguilla and you traveled. I mean, even the travel was something that people look forward to. So that was inspire people. And you would play 3-day cricket. And that's hard cricket. And that's cricket that you've gotta learn, you've gotta bat long, there's gonna be a result and that's kind of builds the camaraderie and that's how you sharpen your skills because you're gonna train to make you're gonna play a club cricket at home. After you play club cricket, you're gonna train with the national team. After you train the national team, you're gonna play the Leeward Islands competition. And then if you're good enough, you play for the Leewards against the other. So that's a lot of cricket. Right now, they don't even have much local cricket here in Anguilla in the sense of that there's not a local cricket competition where guys are being developed. You know what I mean? No professional teams from England comes down to play. So automatically they're players. I just literally before we came on this call, I met one of the guys who was a guy named Burton who's a young wicketkeeper. Who I think he wanted to train with the Leeward Islands. I think it's the Hurricanes himself, Dimitri and Jadel, and he told me like they don't have any camp. The camp got called off. They went straight into the CPL, and I was like, hey, in some way you gotta get out of Anguilla. You gotta be, and even if you're here, you need to be doing the skills. I mean, doing fitness and running is one part of it, but when I played, I was obsessed with wanting to bat, bowl, and sharpen my skills to improve them. So we don't have right now the pathway, and that's very lacking. And even when I was growing up, the pathway was hard because we had a lack of facilities. So it's almost like it was hard before, and it's almost double as hard. Not you gotta be it's almost like you gotta be lucky. You're lucky, and you've got to make sure that you make that even more so the right decision at an early age. Because if you're not part of a Leeward Island setup at the age of 15 and the 19s, you forget it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no I don't know the young guys who are 20, 21 years old who's not already on the Hurricanes roster. How do you get into that roster? You know what I'm saying? There's no Leeward Islands competition to score 3 back-to-back centuries, 200s. I'll take a 5 wicket haul, a 7 wicket haul, or whatever to make it. So right now it's pretty difficult. So like in the sense that if you want to play professional cricket now, definitely like to speak for Anguilla. You definitely got to leave, go to the UK, and try to make it by that means. In the sense that because there's not much cricket that's being played here, and the pathway, even though there was a pathway as you mentioned before, although it was hard back then, there were ways where you could go over sharpen your skills, and there was a platform where you could try to perform to. You know what I'm saying? With the lack of a platform for you to even a competition to test yourself against the rest, it makes it that even more so harder for you to one, stay motivated, and two, to even be recognized.
Very important point, Carl. And you heard the challenges that that territories are facing because Anguilla have got some young, exciting cricketers. Dimitri Adams is now playing in the US.
Yeah.
You got Ian Burton, who Omari was talking about, who I think is an exciting wicketkeeper, young talent. You got Jadel Richardson, who's really got some mad skills as a good all-rounder, but the atmosphere and the platform is really not there for these guys. And it's kind of painstaking for me, but we leave that for another discussion. I just before I switch out from cricket, I wanted to touch a little bit on, I know Omari was close to the late Ronaldo Morton. I want you to remember Ronaldo, and I know that you guys were very, very close.
Yeah, I mean, Renako was one from under 19s cricket. Renako was always a warrior in the sense that he always believed. He always believed in himself, and he was almost like an Iron Man. Because even I remember the day when I heard of his passing, nobody would believe that almost like Renako could die like that. Because he was always a risk taker, and he would always do things, and he would always get away with it. You know what I mean? Renako get in a car crash. Okay, why? You broke your foot, but you're gonna be all right. And guess what? Even if you broke your foot, you probably might come to the ground the next day and you laugh with you about it and get on with it. So Renako was one of those people always passionate and always would try to inspire better out of you. Some people could handle it, some people couldn't. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes it brought out the best in you. You know what I mean? Some of the toughest. Me and him had really great contests against each other. We got him out a couple of times. as well as, you know what I mean, he's gotten the better of me a couple times as well. And I think that's what cricket is about, you know what I mean, your battles that you had against each other, and you got two warriors going up against each other, you know what I'm saying? So there was always a mutual respect out for us, between us. And I just want to, yeah, just say that, yeah, his legacy definitely will live on within the cricket and the region as well as even internationally, because he was always respected. He was good friends with Chris Gayle, even Bravo, and even within the West Indies team, he was looked upon as somebody who would fight for the team. And I think as a cricketer, as a sportsman, that's one of the biggest um, recognition that you can get. You know what I mean? Saying that someone is a fighter or somebody will fight for the team or go down with with the group. You know what I'm saying? Team sports, people want fighters, and definitely Renako was that.
You think he was misunderstood because I think he had one of the biggest hearts. And you made a
Yeah,
very important point. Sometimes people really didn't understand the difference in passion as to what he brought to the field. And he was very aggressive and he
yeah,
would die for West Indies cricket. In fact, he would die for Nevis cricket, Nevis cricket,
yeah.
and West Indies cricket.
Yeah, definitely misunderstood, and he's one of those people that he's a man, was always a man, I would say, of integrity in terms of that. If he said something, even what he said is what he would do, and I think that's one of the most highest honors that you can receive. You know what I mean? Being a man of your word, and Renako was a man of his word, and he had his way. Like everybody's got their way and their approach of doing things, and sometimes the passive approach is not always the right approach. So a lot of, especially when you're talking about sports as well, I think in sports he always, in a lot of ways, he excelled. He excelled because of that passion. Sometimes it intimidated a lot of the people who he played against, and he was able to get the better of them. So I think Renako, yeah, he was misunderstood in some ways, but in a lot of ways as well, he was appreciated for that passion that he brought to the table.
You think you could have had a longer test career sometimes when you look back at your career? Because even when you were not selected, there weren't many things happening around, but as usual, coming from the Leeward Islands, coming from the Windward Islands, players always had to work 15 times harder. And I'm sure I would have told you that was like a recitation, because you would have had an opportunity to talk to El Camino Willett, who was in Nevis, and we brought Willett to talk to youngsters like you guys. So you heard the history of playing for the West Indies. When you look back, you feel that you could have played more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always knew, and as you mentioned before, you always say that you got to work 5, 10, 15 times harder. I remember you telling us that from on the 15th and the 19th. You always used to say, Sawan Snick, caught. He wasn't playing a joke because he was saying, hey, when you have the opportunity to get these guys out, you got to take the wicket. You know what I mean? You can't let them make a 30, 40, 50 because that 30, 40, 50 will be in better stead than your 70, 80, or 100 sometimes. So, I mean, we understood this, and I mean, when I look back at my career, sometimes I think that maybe I could have gone a little bit longer, and maybe if things would have turned out a little bit different, I could have done that. But I mean, you never know. I mean, I retired at an early age, and my last international match for West Indies actually was man of the match, so that could speak for itself. And I mean, even the 2 years before I retired, I actually was the leading all around in the competition, myself and Darren Sammy. When I stopped playing for Leeward Islands, I actually was the captain of the team. I mean, one of these days I can go even further in detail even on that. I actually was let go from the Leeward Islands team as the captain, and that was not necessarily my play because the season before was man of the 1 day competition, his highest score of runs, most leading wicket taker. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but I think the older you get, you understand this is what sports is about. And for me, I've been, you almost have to have a kind of a subservient mentality when you're in sports. You know what I mean? Subservient to whether it be administration, even sometimes to coaches, and within even the region and the sub-region, there's politics within that, and you've got to come to grips with that. And I think when you decide, when you realize what it is, and you think that you can't handle it anymore, it's time to move on. And really and truly, that's what it was for me. I mean, I could have said, okay, like, hang around another 5, 6 years and tough it out and play some 2020 cricket and do this. But for me, I wanted to chart a new course. I mean, life for me has always been about challenges and trying to chart your own course. And I was ready to have the freedom, and music definitely affords you that. I mean, you can write a song, you can express yourself, you create your own fan base. I came from the background of sports where I had the talent to do so, and I was ready for something different. I mean, I had done my time in sports. First, I went on to do so. My last international match, I was the man of the match. I've got not loads of the greats from Lara to Raheel Dravid to Adam Gilchrist to Sangokaro to whatever. So I was ready to just move on to something different. I wasn't ready to fight that, willing to fight that fight anymore. And didn't want to leave somebody have my life and determine my own destiny. I was ready to chart my own course. And maybe if I stuck around a bit longer, could hang around cricket a little bit more. But I think at the end of the day, I would have had to retire someday. And I don't think that I wanted to stay within cricket for my entire life. I think that I wanted to do something different. I'm happy to help out and do things maybe where I can help, but to my life in cricket in the sense that I wanted to do whether it be commentary. I mean, I got offers to do commentary. I was asked to play with West Indies legends. I didn't sign a contract because I wanted to play with music, how that was going to affect my music. So I'm the kind of person that always wants a new challenge. So cricket is gone, and now I'm so focused in the same way obsessed about my music like I was about my cricket. And for me, going out to play a cricket match and to injure my fingers is is not something which is on the cards. I mean, I'll do maybe one-off match if it's right, but to just try to say wind back the hands of time and try to do something within cricket, it's just not something which I would find a great sense of fulfillment with in terms of actually doing it. Maybe to help a youngster, I can do that. But definitely, I want my life to have the freedom of just expressing myself, and definitely music affords that.
Caribbean Sports Management Group continues to salute Omari Banks, first Anguillan test player, musician who has gone on to spread peace. We want you to make sure that you follow all the OnDrive platforms and check out all of our interviews on YouTube, on our Facebook page, on LinkedIn, you name it.
When your body is challenged, it burns fuel and energy. Respond to every challenge with Altitude Sports Drink. It replenishes, restores, and prepares you for the next level. Altitude is uniquely formulated with an electrolyte blend and magnesium available in fruit punch, blue frost, and grape. Altitude. Raise your game.
Dem Sports is an innovative sports equipment manufacturer specialising in the production of high-quality sports nets and cages for clubs, universities and schools. The development of a Dem Sports concertina cage, either as a single or double-width sports net, has helped schools in inner-city areas where space is a premium to include sports such as cricket and tennis in the curriculum in a safe and enjoyable way.
The nets were developed really for when we had schools with a problem space, so it could be used in limited areas. It folds back to the wall to a minimum of 515 millimetres and pulls out to 8 metres just over.
This sort of equipment is exactly the solution that many head teachers will look to use. It is space saving, it is easy to operate, it is relatively low cost, and again the impact of having provision within the school grounds is a real plus point.
Dem Sports are the world leaders in sports nets for schools. They have a range of net sizes to suit all spaces and can custom build whatever you require. For more information on how we can help you transform your play space at school safely, quickly and affordably, contact Dem Sports for details.
For us, this segment is going to be a special musical segment with Omari Banks. And so we want to take some time out to salute all of our major sponsors and our entire team that has made this comfortable. Omari, I've got a couple of requests for you because I've been always following your music. I got some special music, half empty, half full. That's one of the stuff that I want to talk about. System Set um, and Treat Me Like a King. Those are three of my top ones. And I know you got one which you have just launched now, because you've also picked up a contract. But before you get into the musical playing side aspect, let's talk about your Indian connection, because I know that you've just taken this musical endeavor worldwide. So you've always done that. So you play for the West Indies, as you said. That's another chapter. It's the musical side now. Tell us about the contracts and the arrangements that have been made now on the musical side before you give us a treat as to what's happening with some of the songs.
Yeah, I mean, of course, my approach to music has always been a global one. So I've, of course, traveled over to India, released my a couple in 2018. I released a song that's called Reggae Summertime. And that was inspired by my love for Anguilla, and I wanted to share that and love for reggae music. I wanted to share that with the people of India. So I actually went over to India during the IPL, and I did a concert, of course, in Mumbai. I did one in Pune, and of course, got loads of press, the Indian Express, my brother, good friends, Bravo, Gale, and a number of the Indian cricketers came out and supported, and we had a really, 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 really great time. So I mean, yeah, it's always a pleasure to share my music. I mean, even on a different level, I've toured with Morgan Heritage on the Strictly Roots tour, which they won the Grammy for. Their album, yeah, Strictly Roots. Did about 12 or 13 different shows throughout Europe with them. I've done tours on my own. I actually literally just came back from off tour performing with my new group, I should say, new band, in the trio style, so drums, bass, guitar. Did New York, Boston, Florida dates. And even in this COVID time, of course, that's not something that's very easy to do in the sense of that the situation on the ground. Yeah, and I've done Sink It's Music Festival. I've done tours of US, some of the biggest music festivals in the US. South by Southwest, I've done that. Artscape Festival, Hot August Music Festival, Artscape, and just many stuff. Yeah, throughout the US, the Caribbean, Europe, UK, etc. You name it, Germany, Netherlands, etc. And the plan is just to continue doing that. I've actually just signed down with a new booking agent as well, which is Hip Joint Agency. So I'm gonna be doing a lot more touring, even coming up now once this whole restrictions, etc., eases up. But I've already done some stuff and just working on new music, which means that I want to release reggae music as well as in the Omari Banks trio format as well. And it's just to continue to get my word and my style out to the audience across the world. I mean, right now with everything that's going on in the world, people want to hear music that to make them to uplift them, and as well as they want music to speak to them about what's happening. People want answers, and I think that's what music has done. Music has always been that thing to speak to our mind as well as put us in the frame of mind to continue living and continue pushing forward. And my music is definitely about that. And I mean, it's clean music. It's music with a musicality to it. So I play the guitar, I arrange and my music as well, and produce my music. And I've worked with some of the biggest names in reggae music, whether it's from the Dwayne Stevensons, Clive Hunt, who's worked with the likes of Stevie Wonder, Sly Dunbar, and Robbie Lynn. Sly Dunbar of the legendary drum and bass of Jamaica, Dean Fraser, Cat Core of Third World have all played on my records. I mean, just a who's who of reggae music I've definitely worked with for sure, and it's just a pleasure to continue to build something. You know what I mean? Coming from a sporting background, a lot of people I didn't have the opportunity at the time when I retired of social media where I could ride on the coattail of, okay, I'm a West Indies player, and okay, follow me now because I'm playing for the team and I'll share my music. I had to really build it from the ground up. So I had to do it the hard way, and I kind of bring a different vibe to just the traditional, only just pop music, but as an actual musician, play the guitar, not only just rhythm guitar, lead guitar, arranger, producer, songwriter, record label owner, own my own record label as well. I mean, my approach to music is one of, you know what I mean, of being one with the music, not just a song to make people feel happy, but a whole experience of Omari Banks you're getting when you hear my music.
Cal, system set. And I know you got a couple of questions before we get the performance from Omari. It's your turn, my brother.
Omari, travel around the world. How is it to come back to Anguilla and you have a lot of young people that may not have left the island on a regular basis or may have traveled to another island, but not to Europe, North America? How is it to tell them about your experiences? Is it eye-opening for them?
I mean, yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways now, it's been 20 years since 2003, and I continue to tell my story. And actually, I did a short bio, 30-minute bio on my kind of journey, and I had a couple people who would have seen that growth here in Angola speak on it. I really should. When next time, I'm definitely going to get you to speak on something like that as well, Springer. But we had a short time to do it. But yeah, I mean, people know the name Omari, but it's actually kind of crazy. So a lot of the kids now they know me from cricket, but a lot of people say when they see me now, yes, Omari Banks, the artist. So they still refer to me as no, because they didn't, I mean, grow up in that time as of knowing me as a cricketer, and that's actually kind of remarkable to me. I mean, to be able to change your image and be successful at something completely totally different, and the kids recognize you as the artist as opposed to the first Anguillian international cricketer, and what I mean, of 12 years. So it's always good to share. And I mean, I go to the primary schools and talk to the kids all the time, whether it's about not only just myself, but just Anguilla history, cricket, sports, life, Black history, and that kind of stuff. So it's always a pleasure to give back. So it's good to talk to the kids. But as I said before, we got to continue to tell our story, and I think we, as a country, hopefully they continue to push and tell that more. Because that's one of the things where I think us as small islands, I don't know how much it happens in St. Kitts, but what I mean, because of the politics, small community, sometimes you get that no matter how you turn it, that envy and that situation where people don't want to recognize their own. So we've got to we got a long way still to go to ensure that we recognize the people who have kind of laid the platform for us. So I think in Angola we've got a way to go that still. But for the most part, I do my best to inspire people, talk to the kids, and try to encourage them to go down the right directions. And hopefully we get there one day.
And that's the reason why we designed this platform on Drive, Cal and myself, so that we could be able to get your story out there, because the stories are hidden and everybody wants to rewrite the history books. They don't want to come and talk to the people who have toiled for years to understand where Omari Banks came from.
Thanks.
And that's why we designed this platform called OnDrive through the Caribbean Sports Entertainment Management Group, to be able to, just as you rightly said, when the folks go on YouTube, when they go on LinkedIn, when they go on Facebook, they can reflect and hear your story.
Thanks.
Carl?
Yeah, one more question before you get into that beautiful guitar. It seems to me that you enjoy honing your craft, hearing your story about developing yourself as a cricketer, as a person, but also as a musician. It seems like you value the tools that you work with, because you either had a cricket bag on your back or you had the guitar, and your mind always had to be focused, or it remains focused, because playing a musical instrument or remembering a score or chorus when you're out to an audience is the same as playing your 4-day test match cricket. Every time the bowler's coming to you, or every time you're facing the batsman, you have to be concentrated and focused. How is that the mindset? Because, most people will give up a sports career and want to sit back and relax, and most people will give up a musical career. It's a lot of travel, and now I'm going to relax. You keep going, even though it's two different professions. How does it keep you going? Why do you do it?
The longer I've lived, not just in a citizen, in the most humble way, I've realized that I'm a kind of a different kind of person. Different in the sense that I'm very driven for better, driven to excellence. And I think a lot of that came from my mother. In a lot of ways, it almost seemed growing up like it was never enough. So I always wanted to be better, to be better for myself, and also to please her, or even to please You know what I mean, my dad. I mean, I've never been the kind of person to get a lot of compliments from my parents. They're very strong and perfectionists as people. And for me, I don't know if that kind of shaped my character. I don't know if that drives me right now, because really and truly, I've just got an ethic in terms of I just want to be excellent in whatever I do. But I definitely think initially, what really kind of drove me to that mentality is that I wanted to make something of myself. And the only way I learned you can learn that is that you're gonna have to put in the hours. I remember as a kid growing up, even before I would read my school books, I'll be reading motivational books, whether it be Deepak Chopra stuff, I'll be reading all positive self-help books, even stuff on psychology and that kind of stuff. My aunt is Linda Banks is Anguilla's first psychologist and something like that. So I would ask her to hypnotize me. I just remember that used to be kind of a joke. But I mean, I always understood the importance of the mind. And for me, that's kind of etched inside of my whole character right now. Anybody who comes around me would understand that I'm a very intense person. So I'm structured. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to go. And I kind of take that mentality into my music. I go into my music with a sporting mentality. I want this done this way. It's got to be this way. I'm going to play this way. And there's room for improvisation, because that's what music is about as well. But I've really got a method to how I want to go about things. And every single day, sometimes I started to do it as a career. I say, hey, I want to get in definitely 7, 8, 9 hours of practice. I'm going to write in this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm just inspired to work hard, because I believe that's a core principle of my life. Without hard work, you can never get anything achieved. And I've seen how when you work hard at something, I've been around music my whole life. I could play music, but I've seen how from 10 years ago to now, it's a different kettle of fish. I'm a professional guitar player now, and I can listen to any music, any song, and just play it once I'm in a band setting. So, and that came not just from inherent talent. I mean, I always had talent, but that came from me paying attention to detail and learning my craft and honing it and putting in the long, hard hours. So it comes from inside. I think at the end of the day, you've got to have a passion for what you do. And I've always been somebody that only just did the things that I wanted to do. I love cricket. I did cricket. I love music. I do music. End of story.
On Drive, would like to take some time out to salute all of our major sponsors who have made this conversation possible with Omari Banks, and to also thank the management of the Caribbean Sports Entertainment Management Group to be able to make sure that we can be able to interact with the unsung heroes of sports. And that's our mission. We want to salute all our sponsors and our entire team that has made it possible. System set. Time to run the guitar, Omari.
So what I want to do for you, Springer, I think I'm gonna do for everybody out there. I'm gonna do this first song that I wrote when I decided to move on, and this one is called "Move On." It was the title track of my very first album. I actually released it before that on my dad's album, but you can check it right now on iTunes or everywhere music is streamed. It's a song that was inspired by all the feelings that I was going through when I decided to make the transition from moving on from my time in cricket to music. I'm gonna do this one for you. This one is called "Move On," all right? It's in your moment of trying to decide if you a winner or an over guy. But there is no vision, my friend, we shall die. Step back to your face and soar to the sky. Don't look back and what you could have done. Just move on and learn new champion. Don't feel inside, my friend, you are a godson. Just move on and learn new champion. Face the battles won. Enjoy the journey where you want to go, and smile at times to do. Beware of those who don't mean you well. Improve yourself and show others respect. Don't look back and what you could have done. Just move on, but learn you champion. Don't sit and sulk, my friend, you are a godson. Just move on, learn you champion. Face the battles won. And when you've reached as high as you can climb, be sure to pass what you learned down the line. Find peace in knowing you gave it your best. Be true to yourself and have no regrets. Don't look back and what you could have done. You must move on, but learn you champion. Don't sit and stuck, my friend, you are a godson. Just move on, but learn you champion. Face the battles won. With faith the battles won. You gotta keep believing. With faith the battles won. Whoa, with faith the battles won. You gotta keep believing. With faith the battles won.
Omari Banks in concert on Drive, the Caribbean Sports Entertainment Management Group. Take some time out, Omari, because we want to also, we have folks in India, and so the track that you launch in India, I really love if you can drop that one for us too, for Indian counterparts. I'd really love that one, please.
All right, let's see. Let me make sure this is all tuned up first. So the song that I did, that I released over in India, it's a song that's called Reggae Summertime, and this song is inspired by my love for my country, which is called Anguilla. It's called Reggae Summertime, and also my love for reggae music. Right? I'm gonna do this one for you guys. So it's called Reggae Summertime. All right. Ooh, reggae music. You bring the vibe that the people like. That the people like. Come to my island, Anguilla. We got the vibe that will keep you. Ooh, it's that time of the year, the tiny hair. Sun is shining, people smiling, love everywhere. Keep a lady next to you. Your only good vibes in mind. Be in time, the moon is high, the stars are bright. There's a party over here. Reggae summertime is in the air. I know you waited for this jump for so long. Got the drinks and the cooler to sip on. Ooh, it's summertime. No need to fret that the music make you rock and whine. Forget the mess behind. No stress, living bliss, that is for a while. Yeah, it's all about love, manifesting in light from above. That time of the year down here. Sun is shining, people smiling, love everywhere. Keep a lady next to you. Your only good vibes in mind. Meantime, the moon is high, the stars are bright. There's a party over here. Reggae summertime is in the air. Take a drink for your friends and and pass on. Raise a glass in the air cause you love them. Ooh, it's summertime. No need to fret that the music make you rock and wine. No limit to our love. Peace and harmony spread throughout the world. Yeah, it's all about love. Manifesting in light from above. That time of the early down the air. Sun is shining, people smiling. Love everywhere. Keep a lady next to you. Get only good vibes in mind. Be in time. Moon is high, stars are bright. There's a party over here. Reggae summertime is in the air. Come with me to my sweet island hometown. Anguilla, the land where we come from. Ooh, it's summertime, no need to fret that the music make you rock and whine. There's a party over here, and Sam and a fam to join you. Yeah, it's all about love, manifesting in light from above. That time I'll be yelling down your hair. Sun is shining, people smiling. Love that keep a lady next to you. Your only good vibes in mind. Meantime, the moon is high, the stars are bright. There's a party over here. Reggae summertime is in the air. Yeah, it's that time of the yelling down the hair. Sun is shining, people smiling, there's love everywhere. Keep a lady next to you. Yeah, only good vibes in mind. Meantime, the moon is high and stars are bright. There's a party over here. Reggae summertime is in the air. Come to my island and we'll love. We got the vibes that will keep you. Ooh. Yeah. Come to my island and we'll love. You'll be back cause you in the south. Ooh. Yeah.
Hey, the system set. The safest place to be is in the Caribbean. Visit Anguilla. When you go there, check out Omari Banks. When you go to Bermuda, check out Carl Blancandel. When you come to Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Martin, you name it, it's just, hey, trust me, it's just a special place. And if you feel like you want to move out from the Leeward Islands, then before you move from the Leeward Islands, you get to Antigua and Barbuda, you go to Montserrat. So, you can get yourself organized. When you go to Anguilla, you can be able to visit St. Martin, French and Dutch St. Martin, do some shopping, get yourself organized. Or if you want to go to the Windwards, then you got to visit the Commonwealth of Dominica, St. Vincent and Grenadines, St. Lucia, and Spice Isle, Grenada. So, hey, you got options. And trust me, it's the safest place to be during the pandemic. You go to Anguilla, you got all of the beaches that you could think about. You can move, you can just do an entire Caribbean tour and then all the way back up by calling Bermuda. So you can just journey through. Get down to Anguilla, where there's American Airlines, go over to St. Martin, do some shopping, come up the islands quietly, just begin to set yourself up, reach into St. Kitts and Nevis, and you can muster around. Get to Antigua and Barbuda, visit Montserrat, and then you can just fly out from Antigua and Barbuda and head straight to Bermuda. Next time you come around, you can visit the Windward Islands. But right now, trust me, the system set and on drive has just presented to you Omari Banks. From a cricketer to a musician. Carl, that was your birthday gift there, my brother.
Yes. I think that should be the official song of the Anguillan Tourism Board. That made me want to come over right now. I mean, you described your island with a lot of passion and all the scenery. And I'm a guy, I like to have a little beverage. I know there's some good rum in Anguilla, so that's all I need. And I'm good to go.
Exactly.
Beautiful, man.
That's what you gotta do, guys. You gotta come to Anguilla. And I hear Springer talking about this song, so I gotta do it for just a little bit of it. Just heat up the system set, right?
Yeah.
All right.
All yours.
Know what you're fighting for. Think you're leaving this gone. You're willing to start back from zero. The system set long time about ya. So know what you're fighting for. Who the dollar you spend it belongs to. The fantasies how I'm long for. You better know the system set about ya. This is not for the pessimism. All the optimists, quite frankly, I'm speaking as a realist, someone who is familiar with the story of Sir Francis. Introduction to this new world we live in. We understand that this has always been a business authorized of the truth by Pope Martin V. Well, in this system, tell me where you get it. They say abolish, but it's the same. Know what you're fighting for. Think you leave in the skull. You willing to start back from zero. The system set on them both, yeah. So know what you're fighting for. Who the dollar you spend it belongs to. Your fantasies how I'm long for. But to know the system set both, yeah. Hawkins saw the benefits. Now it's come to this war. Terrorism and the struggling currency. Who will escape it when the trader comes to take it? I'm if you had a in it, I'm squashing like a pumpkin. We understand that it has always been bad business. Only thing he's telling us blue water and the beaches. What the situation we are not confronting. They say abolish, but it's the same. Know what you're fighting for. Think you leave in the skull. You willing to start back from zero. The system said long time out, yeah. So know what you're fighting for. With the dollar you spend it belongs to. Your fantasies how I'm long for. Better know the system said about ya. System said about ya.
System set, Carl.
System set, man. System set, man.
Trust me. This is what drives me, Carl. Omari Banks and company. This is what drives me. I feel real honored that at least I can be able to share the same platform with Omari Banks. Is somebody that I've admired for a long time and looked at his transition. Omari Banks, it's been an honor. Your final words, and Carl will close out this special conversation that we shared here with you. It has just been inspiring and it was moving for me. System set.
Well, thank you very much, Carl, for having me. Thank you very much, Springs, for having me. I just want to say I appreciate you guys, Springs. I just want to say thank you for the love, the support, and everything that you have given to me over the years. As usual, you know, I don't take it for granted. So I want to say thank you very much for that love, support. Big up to Navin, because I know he works along with you as well. He's another one who continues to support and help along with my journey. So just big up to your whole staff, everybody over there, the whole crew help putting this together. I look forward to coming on again the next time, whenever that is. But I'm here, always here to share my whatever information that I have, as well as just to continue to assist you guys however way that I can as well. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story. And thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And promote your social media platforms, because we're in a partnership together.
Thank you. So definitely, yeah, just make sure you follow me on all my social platforms. On Instagram, it's Omari Banks Music. On Twitter, it's Omari Banks Music as well. My webpage is www.omaribanks.com. Facebook, it's Omari Banks. My YouTube, Omari Banks. And yeah, actually, I just did a new page for my trio band. It's Omari Banks Trio. So that started about a week ago as well. But Omari Banks Music is my verified artist page. So thank you guys for having me. Make sure you follow me socially. Make sure you get my music. Every digital platform my music is available. So Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, everything, music videos, new content is always going up. So appreciate you guys. Thanks again.
Carl, system set. You got a final word on this one.
Yeah, Omari, we've had some great interviews over the last 10 days. Every time I think we've done one which we couldn't surpass, but today you're the first test match cricketer, but also musician and musical artist. And not because you're the first, but you really shared your craft. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm quite certain we will cross paths. And I have your details, but I'm going to talk to Springer, because we have a Bermuda Music and Arts Festival. And we have people flying in that do show their craft. And I think you are definitely a candidate for that committee or board to reach out to and hopefully find and see your value and get you on this local platform as a true musician with a fantastic story to tell as well. So thank you very much, and let's catch up sooner than later, my brother.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm looking forward to that email call or whatever. And be happy to come and do that. And again, Spring, thank you for having me and for getting in touch with me. And you guys have a great day, and love alone to you guys. All right.
Yes, thank you. And on behalf of Muda Sports Entertainment Management Group, Caribbean Sports Entertainment Management Group, we close out with Omari Banks. Fantastic interview and great partnership with Ryan and Springen. And take care until the next time.